Welcome back to TMZ Live. Harvey and Babcock here. So last night was just entertaining as hell, I got to say.
Yeah, and not the football game.
And not the football game. This was a debate, supposedly the great debate of the red states versus the blue states. What it really was a road test between Ron DeSantis and Gavin Newsom. And it was on Fox News Channel. It was moderated by Sean Hannity, who began the broadcast by saying this is going to be a fair, factual debate, and then it turned into just an attack on California and Gavin Newsom. But it was really interesting the way both of them handled this. Yeah. So the entertaining part of this was when Ron DeSantis pulled poop out of his jacket, sort of, kind of. Here's what happened.
This is a map of San Francisco. There's a lot of plots on that. You may be asking, what is that plotting? Well, this is an app where they plot the human feces that are found on the streets of San Francisco. And you see how almost the whole thing is covered, because that is what has happened in one of the previous greatest cities this country's ever had. Human feces is now a fact of life, except when a communist dictator comes to town. Then they cleaned up the streets. They lined the streets with Chinese flags. They didn't put American flags there. They cleaned everything up. So they're willing to do it for a communist dictator, but they're not willing to do it for their own people.
So poop aside, who won this thing? Who lost this thing? I got my opinions, but there is a guy who makes a living off of looking at California politics, among other things. He is a very smart dude. His name is Elex Michaelson. He is the anchor of Fox 11 in Los Angeles, and he is joining us right now. Elex, welcome to TMZ Live.
Hey, Harvey, thanks so much for having me. I think the big winner of the debate was the poop map. I mean, is that not the perfect metaphor for the state of our political discourse right now? A map of poop.
It is unbelievable. It just was, and just pulling it out of his pocket like this, and he pulled another thing out of his pocket.
Card.
Yeah, I mean, it was. So I got to ask you. You know Gavin Newsom very well. You traveled to China with him. You just know the guy well.
Yeah.
I don't know this served him particularly well. Why did he do this?
Well, it allows him to make his point on a national stage. It allows him to, he said for years that he thought that the Democrats need to go more on the offensive, that they need to put their eyes in their positions in front of other people, like on Fox News. And so it makes him a national figure. Everybody's talking about him. You're talking about him on a big national show. And he got a bunch of clips that he can put on social media for people that maybe weren't watching Fox News, where he gets to slam Ron DeSantis and call him a bully and say all the things that progressives have always wanted to say to Ron DeSantis's face. And if you clip it up, you get those moments for him. On the other side, Ron DeSantis gets the same thing. He gets to say to to Gavin Newsom's face everything that all of the conservatives have wanted to say for him for years, especially when it comes to COVID. And he gets to slice that up in social media, and his supporters all think that he killed Gavin Newsom in all of this. So both of them get moments, both of them get to fundraise off of this. And we're talking about both of them at a time when the front runners are the generation older. You know, they're both stuck behind Joe Biden and Donald Trump right now. And for a night, at least, they got to be the stars of the show.
But the problem is several problems. Number one, Gavin Newsom, because of the way the questioning went, it all had to do with the problems of California.
Right.
And so he had to defend his own state, his own record, and then on top of that, had to defend Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So you've got a guy who is there not answering friendly fire at all. He's answering very pointed questions about California, you know, about his record, and he's telling everybody things are pretty great. It's just not the way the polls are aligning right now.
Well, and the framing of pretty much every question was California sucks, Florida is great. Tell us more.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, if Gavin Newsom's whole premise is I want to go on the offensive, Democrats should be on the offensive. The problem was the entire night he was on the defensive, in part because of the framing of all this and the topics of all that. And that made it a tough night for him. And it allowed Ron DeSantis to have a lot more moments than he's ever been able to have in any of these GOP debates before him, because he had this sort of home field advantage. And he also felt, I think, very comfortable with all of the issues that were brought up, which are all the issues that are brought up on Fox News every single night. Of course, Gavin Newsom watches Fox News every single night. And so he knew a lot of those things that were coming, but he did kind of dodge on a lot of these things. And I think both of these guys would have been better served to have a little bit of humility every once in a while, and frankly, a little bit of humor. There weren't a lot of moments that were fun.
Right,
and if you think about the great moments in debate history, like when Ronald Reagan won a debate, it was like jokes that got them over the top.
You're right.
We didn't see a lot of that last night.
Alex, do you think that it seems to me that the DNC and the RNC, they have too much control. Do you think we might see more of things like this, governors debating each other in front of the country? I think that was beneficial for the voters. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to hear an exchange of ideas, and it's also, frankly, more beneficial to hear a debate between a Republican and a Democrat than just two, Republicans debating each other. Part of the problem with our media ecosystem right now is cable news channels are so lined up with one particular party that we're in echo chambers. People don't hear other perspectives. So for a lot of folks that maybe watch Fox, they almost never hear Gavin Newsom's perspective, and vice versa. There were watch parties in San Francisco last night watching this Fox News thing. I don't think they're typically tuning into Fox News primetime, and maybe they got to hear some different perspectives from Ron DeSantis and Sean Hannity that they don't usually hear, or their Instagram timelines, preclude them from hearing because it doesn't fit with their algorithm. And I think moments where we can break that and actually talk to each other is important, because we got to figure out a way to talk to each other before we have a civil war.
Was the smiling as just... I don't know. Was it as off-putting to you as it was to me? Because when they stopped doing the two-shot at one point, and I thought it was just because both sides went to somebody and said, "Don't show my guy reacting," because those smiles were creepy.
Yeah, it was weird, and it makes people, I think, trust somebody less. Showing a little bit of humility. Like there never was ever a moment of saying, "Yeah, you know what? We got that wrong. We've learned from it, and now we'll move on." It's like both sides, and some of this is the way our social media is set up to reward this. It's like all right or all wrong. The other side's evil. So it might be nice to say, "Yeah, you got a good point there."
What do you think President Biden was thinking as he was watching last night?
He was asleep.
Good point. Good point.
White House isn't going to like that. I mean, I think the fact, and this is an important fact, that the Biden campaign did not release anything negative about Ron DeSantis shows the fact that they don't see him as a serious threat right now. It's clear that they're focused on Donald Trump and that Nikki Haley's poll numbers are rising. And I don't think there was a lot that made Ron DeSantis change that equation. I don't think either one of them are necessarily more likely to be president after what happened last night.